Okay, I think we have a quorum now. We can start our June meeting of the Environmental Commission. And will we do roll call, Maria?
Sure. Commission Chair Kramer,
Present?
Commissioner Novi,
Present.
Commission Vice Chair O'Connor,
Here.
and Commissioner Parker.
Here.
Let the record show that we have a quorum with 4 commissioners present and Commissioners Switzler, Brunner, and Wick absent.
Okay, and next we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Would anyone like to lead us?
I'll start.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, do we have any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda
Great. Do we have any oral communications?
and no oral communications.
Okay, then I guess we will move along to our presentation by Matthew Clow, Executive Director of Plastic Beach.
Thank you for the invitation today. It's nice to be able to present in front of you. We all know that basically we have a plastic pollution issue. We seem to be languishing at about a 6% recycling rate for recyclables in general in the US, and plastic is amongst that, even though plastic as a material is actually increasing within the amount of recyclable materials being available for recycling. We are avid consumers. It's sort of baked into us as, you know, as Americans, and it is what it is. So I'm here today to talk about how we can address that in sort of a real way, and that is what our non-profit Plastic Beach was set up to do. And that is what I believe we are demonstrating. So, going backwards. Seem to have the first and the last slide. Oh, here we go. Go back to...
You want me to just control it for you?
yes, please, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. They just jumped out of order a bit. Okay, all right, so I'll just go that way. Okay, so basically the plastic that we're talking about is not the grocery bags that we're all being told are the issue. There's this invisible rest of the iceberg of plastic out there that we're not even aware of, and that's what we call in the supply chain plastic. So pretty much everything that we own, everything that we wear, if we get any DIY done on our house, everything's coming wrapped in plastic. It comes on pallets, it comes wrapped in bubble wrap, it comes in Ziploc bags, it comes in packaging bags. Plastic bags have great utility. What they do is amazing. It keeps everything clean, tidy, machine sortable, labelable, inventory control. That's why it works so well for our manufacturing and sort of distribution processes. All of this material at the moment is pretty much destined for landfill because we haven't built out the infrastructure to collect it. The reason for the collection being the logjam for all of this is the downstream will take it, but the collection, you're moving air when you're pretty much going to collect it because it's not in a compressed state when you're going to collect it. So even if you collect 5 pounds, that 5 pounds could be basically a cubic yard of plastic in its uncompressed form that's been just dropped into a plastic bag. With gas prices, coming up again to $5 a gallon, there isn't really an economical way to move that, certainly when you're paying staff and running a business. That is why 5 years ago I founded our non-profit Plastic Beach to try and investigate how we could change that. Because again, for the last 50 years, we've been stuck at this small number of recycling, and we wanted to investigate, is there a way that we can change? Is there a way that we can, move the needle on this? So in this slide here, you'll see all the different types of plastic. So the material that we're talking about is, the generic term is plastic film or plastic wrap. It's basically polyethylene. It comes in two different types, low density, high density. High density would be that really thick, reusable plastic grocery bag that's been under a lot of fire, that's been mandated out now by a lot of these California legislation, these cities. And then the low density would be the more thinner grocery bags that are actually being mandated out, and like in Carlsbad as the 1st of July, that's the sort of bag that's been taken out of circulation from the consumers. But again, on the back end in the stock rooms, no one's even talking about those bags, and so that's what we're talking about now. I think we all know this. Plastic takes a long time to biodegrade, and when it does break down, it never breaks down completely. All the plastic that's been ever produced is still in existence around us, and as it breaks down, it just breaks down to smaller and smaller sizes. It enters the weather system by convection, and eventually it enters us via water and via the food chain. Once it's in us, the chemicals that make the plastic up, they continue to degrade inside us, and that is causing us illness and issues as well. So that's something that we have to deal with. But on a short term, for a city, we should be worried about our landfills filling up with material that could be recycled and doesn't need to go there, because we all know that as our landfills fill up, once they fill up, our alternatives realistically are going to be Nevada, and there's going to be a huge cost penalty for moving our local Encinitas trash out to Nevada, and we will be bearing that cost down to the household level as well as the city level, not just in the dollar price, but also in the health implications, traffic implications, and just general infrastructure stress of now running these hundreds of diesel trucks out on our major arteries just to move our trash, when perhaps we could have kept the landfills alive a little bit longer by keeping material off it that had somewhere else to go. The inertia we're fighting against is basically, again, there's been no systems have been put into place to collect this material, because we were relying on a commercial solution to a community problem. Instead of pivoting to meet it like we do with wastewater, we decided we had to leave it up to a commercial business to try and solve it for us. And at the same time, we were complaining that we're only hitting 6% of recycling. We can't really have it both ways, because we're putting all the onus on someone else to solve it for us without giving them the funding, the grants, or the ability to actually take on that cost sink of taking on a project which doesn't really have a payout. For the companies getting involved in this, there isn't really much of an incentive to do it, because the low prices of trash disposal mean that they can just throw it away as trash with no penalty. They have no incentive to try and treat it as a recyclable resource. So again, there's no reason why they wouldn't pull it out of trash. And finally, the big one is inertia. We've been doing this for 40, 50 years. No one's been offering recycling for these plastic bags. We look around us. Most people, if you ask them, where do you recycle a plastic bag, they'll just look at you blankly. Some people will say, oh, I take it to the grocery store. Some people will say, I'll throw it in the blue bin. Both of those answers are flawed. The first one is, we should all know that the blue bin will not accept any of our soft plastics. EDCO, Republic, Waste Management, none of our carriers can accept it in their waste stream processing. And then the grocery store system is deeply flawed. We're seeing a lot of articles about this stuff ending up in Indonesia and stuff like that. And again, the reason for that is the cost of processing is way cheaper if we offshore it than it is if we keep it in-house historically. These pictures reflect sort of the volumes that we see on a weekly pickup from the businesses that we are working with. A small business can easily fill a regular curbside trash can with plastic. This one on the left is a monthly collection for a small business. The one in the middle is actually a weekly collection from an area surf store. And then the one on the right is actually a half of a collection from Jimbo's per week. So we're doing 6 yards of plastic from Jimbo's every single week. And until a year ago when we started with them, all of this plastic was going to landfill. So we have successfully diverted 35 tons of this plastic from our area businesses in the last 2 or 3 years. So there's definitely a want out there to get this done. It's just finding that, walking that pathway between sort of how much people are willing to pay for a service and to get them engaged. This is just a brief overview of the £2,000 a month that we're collecting. As we take on more customers, this view changes. We're really happy to announce that we signed on our first international company this week. That's a really big milestone for us. It's an international pharmaceutical biotech company. They're really wanting to take this on. So we really feel we're in the moment now to start pulling in these bigger and bigger companies. So the range of our companies are small mom and pop retail stores. We have a couple of anchor stores for the area. We have breweries, grocery stores, and then through up to manufacturing and these international stores. So there is a desire out there to engage, but it's we need to sort of bring this to scale to truly make any difference. What we're trying to illustrate with this picture is that at the present, everything goes into the dumpster and there's a cost associated with that dumpster. We can't throw stuff away for free. We should all understand that. I say should because there are people that don't understand that idea. So when they're confronted with the cost of recycling, they sort of balk at it. And we say, well, if you're removing this recycling from your trash, the idea eventually is that it'll pay for itself because you'll be able to downgrade to a smaller trash container. And then that itself will have advantages because you'll have a smaller carbon footprint as a business because you'll have smaller trucks coming out to do your pickups for your trash. Because the infrastructure will be smaller, they won't have to run a big dumpster truck out there to pick up this big steel dumpster. They can be running out the residential trash trucks to be picking up the curbside bins, etc., which also has a big benefit for the city because it means the types of vehicles in our city streets can change. We can rely more on electric vehicles because they're not having to do these big high capacity loads and lifts like we are doing with dumpsters. This slide's a little bit tricky. We're being told that our customers really care. The customers really care about this. That people want to stand by brands which are being more ethical and are offering more greener, sustainable solutions. I think the problem is when there's a pinch in the economy, a lot of this sort of shifts, and people feel that there's stuff that they want to do, but then there's stuff that they can afford to do. So again, we can't just rely on this, on the passion of people wanting to do the right thing. We have to sort of make it easier for them. Plastic Beach as a non-profit, we're coming at this as a sort of, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. Or, our solution is we provide, the bin, we provide a service, we're a pickup service. Typically our service fees are a little bit higher than the local trash collection, but that's because we're trying to do something no one else in America is doing. So there is a cost implication for us because we're trying to start something from the ground up, and it does involve some very, very expensive machinery that we have to sort of finance, and we have to have a lot of warehouse space, etc. All our collections we've now finished our pivot to EV, so our actual collections are done in an EV vehicle now. So again, we've got the lowest carbon footprint we can for our collections. So we're actually looking to walk the walk. We want to be a green company providing green solutions. So not only are we providing green solutions to the community, but we're also providing green jobs and we're doing the collections in a green way. So we want to demonstrate to our community and to the businesses we're serving that you can do something green in a green way all the way through, because that's the way that we want to be able to progress as a community. And then finally, I just want to end up with these two nice testimonials. These sort of cover two areas, really. The one on the left is from Josh at Surfride. He has two surf shops, one in Oceanside, one in Solana Beach. As a father and a small business owner, he has sort of the duality of wanting to protect his children's legacy and also his legacy, his business legacy. And he sees the importance of both, and he sees that, we can't keep on this track. We shouldn't keep on this track of just polluting the planet when we can actually do something really easy by just pulling this plastic out when it's clean and dry. It's just coming off a T-shirt and putting it into a bin. And then on the right side, we've got Anne from Pizza Port. She's coming at it from more of a practical angle. They're a larger company. They're still a good anchor, sort of iconic business for North County, but they're coming at it more of a business side. They're saying, well, like many businesses, they're trying to solve a problem. They're trying to get to 100% landfill diversion, which is a very common goal now that's been pushed by a lot of the companies around us and a lot of the cities. And the only way they're going to get to that is by dealing with the recyclable material in their waste stream first. And then once that's out of the way, it's going to get more and more complex to deal with the stuff that's left. But this material is definitely the very, very easy first step. The stuff down the line gets harder, but if we can't deal with the easy stuff, we have no chance of dealing with the hard stuff. And then finally, this was our little last year sort of thank you. The San Diego area businesses we worked with, they basically, between them, they gave us, I guess, we collected 20,000 pounds of plastic from them just last year alone. We've already surpassed that this year alone already in Q1, Q2. So we're on this exponential rise as we get better at what we're doing and as we sort of do better at making connections with the business around us. We're showing them that what material they have in their supply chain that they can pull out and building the added value. And then also, again, we're letting other companies know that this is something worth taking on. And it does seem to be working, but the reason why I wanted to be here today was I wanted to talk to you about just you need to be aware of this, is that in order to solve something like plastic recycling, you need to be looking at where it goes and how does it get there. And that means supporting that downstream, and that means supporting not only the industries that are supporting the downstream, so like Plastic Beach, but also being prepared to pass legislation, to maybe offering like grants or maybe some sort of tax incentive to drive businesses to be able to cover the fees for the extra costs for recycling and stuff like that. If we don't do it, we won't get that engagement, because at the end of the day, these people are running small businesses and they don't want to be spending money. They're not seen, they don't have to spend. And because this material is not front and foremost in our attention, no one's really telling them they have to do it. But it would be a really, really easy first step for them to take on. Thank you.
Matthew, I was wondering, are you ready for questions?
No, go ahead.
I didn't hear you mention where your plastic ends up going and what it becomes.
So we've found this really, for us, it's a perfect solution. So the stereotypical problem with plastic from first world countries is it gets offshored, and we basically make it someone else's problem. And usually that problem is a third world country, developing nation, and we see the pictures and it's horrific. And we literally just make it someone else's problem. We're actually working to keep it fully domestic. We work with US manufacturing company Trex, T-R-E-X. So we are a community recycling partner of Trex. When we have a load ready for them, they basically send a truck, we load them up, and our nearest facility is Nevada, so they'll take it there. It's then processed, and they make decking material from it. And the the nice thing about that is the recycled plastic gets sequestered for the next 20 to 30 years as a piece of American decking outside an American house. And then our hope is that in the next 20 to 30 years, we'll have come up with a robust solution in a way to dispose of that piece of decking at its end of life that doesn't involve releasing that captured downcycled plastic into the environment.
I was going to say also, to confirm, I know EDCO does not want plastic in any of their bins.
Correct. And it's to the point where EDCO and Republic are actually really leaning into helping Plastic Beach with sort of making connections with local businesses. They don't want it going onto the landfill. They help manage the local landfills as well. Because again, selfishly, when the local landfills fill up, they lose that. So they don't want it because the systems that they use for recycling are conveyor belt systems with wheels in, and the soft plastic just gets pulled in and causes outages, which is very expensive, as well as being sort of very disruptive.
And then the other day I caught a 60 Minutes, which was on plastic and like taking it to grocery stores and other places you're supposed to be able to recycle it, and they air tagged a lot of it. It was sitting in all sorts of weird places, and then it would finally end up in landfills, and it was being shipped to Africa, and some of it was being burnt, and it was not going to a Trex. A very minimal amount was being repurposed again. So
Correct, and that's why, and again, that's why we were offered a choice when we started this, where we wanted our plastic to go. In Southern California, really, we only had two choices. One is pretty much cross the border. There are facilities across the border in Mexico that will remanufacture into plastic bags. Often they will just go into the precursor, the nurdle, which we've probably all heard about. They wash up on the beaches from broken shipping containers too often. But they're the precursors for making plastic again. Two problems with that is we've only got 30 companies working with us now, so the chances of us seeing that second recycled plastic bag are functionally zero. And the second biggest problem actually is that, unlike recycled paper, you can't go round a second time with a recycled plastic bag. The chemical structure degrades so quickly that actually the best thing to do is you downcycle it straight away, which is why Trex is such a beautiful solution, because you're getting it whilst it's clean and dry, straight out of the stockroom of a business, and then it goes into our van, into our baler, into a bale, off to Trex. We're not having to do any of this mitigation or anything like that. And if you think about how expensive it is to run these like trawlers out in the Pacific Gyre, and you know, they're heralding, yeah, we swept up 10 tons. Yeah, that's amazing, but for pennies on the dollar, we collected 35 tons. And that's the message we're trying to get across. We're trying to get this very unsexy, can-do attitude that if you just put it in a bin for a small service fee that's comparable to your trash fee, we can be removing literally hundreds of tons of this material from North County businesses and from our landfills every year. And our stated goal for our nonprofit is to be out of business in 5 years. We've told this to EDCO and Republic that we want to be handing them literally the keys to our business in 5 years' time, and at least for businesses, they will get a whole blueprint of how to do business collection for this material.
That's great. Thank you so much. This is such an informative presentation and eye-opening. We're really interested in solving this single-use plastic problem and the plastic wrap. You know it's ubiquitous, but just seeing those photos of how quickly it piles up. So thank you for all that you're doing. I have a couple of questions. Do you work with municipalities, and do you work with just residential customers, or just businesses at this stage?
So the answer is yes to all of that. So we're already working with Cal State University San Marcos. We've been with them for a year and a half now. We are in talks with UCSD to start with them. We're also in talks with the city of Carlsbad. That's been brokered through Republic, which is awesome for us, because that's the ultimate goal for us, is for them to take it eventually. So the fact that they're already pitching us to the city to be the vendor for the city's own soft plastic. So that would be all the soft plastic that's been generated through the city's own projects. So when they buy things like lumber, gravel, stuff that's wrapped in pallets, all of that plastic at the moment goes to landfill because there's nowhere else for it to go. So the nice thing is it would give the city the ability to walk the walk itself. And then the idea would be, a city could work out what the process was doing it itself, and then it'd be in a better position to talk to businesses about doing it. We are actually doing a residential pilot program. It represents a very small part of what we're doing, but what we do is we work with community entities. So we work with the Solana Center and the Agua Hedionda Lagoon Foundation, and then in North County we're actually working with a small zero waste store down there. They host a drop-off point for us, and then we run a subscription service, which is basically analogous to the grocery store system, but we provide a chain of custody for all of that plastic because we're feeding it into the commercial collections we're doing, and we literally get the receipts from Trex saying where it's going. The nice thing about that is we're also using we're using grain bags from our partner Pizza Support, and these grain bags can't be recycled because they're a different type of plastic, of course. They're a number 5, which no one can really recycle. We're using those as the collection medium for the residential program. So we're trying to really stick with the 4 R's of recycling through every single thing that we do. And not only does that save us money, but it also signals to our residents, because they're literally holding a recycled grain bag as their recycling bag. It signals to them that this can be done in a circular manner.
Okay, thanks. And then just thinking of solutions kind of upstream, like reducing production, I guess. I know California at the state level is working on trying to restrict single-use plastics, and I think one of them is SB 54, and which tries to pass the cost along to the producer, if I understand that correctly. So will that have an impact on the amount of plastic film production and distribution in the near future?
No.
No.
So I'm telling you now, we're seeing both sides of this. So we're paying attention to the production side as well. So the production side are heralding they're talking about having a banner decade. Mm-hmm. They're saying that they're off the charts in production.
Double it, or
2030, whatever.
Yeah.
If you look at what's happening in New York, where they tried to pass that 30% reduction for the plastic packaging for the businesses, and that is facing a lot of flack from businesses, predictably. But even with a big reduction, which 30% would represent, if you're running that parallel to the business of plastic saying, well, we're on a massive uptick, I think the reality is going to be between that and our consumer bent, we're going to probably end up at the same place as we are now then. So we need to be walking and chewing gum at the same time. We need to build out the infrastructure for the collection. We need to be funding that directly and indirectly. So we need to be funding ways and businesses that are actually going to do the collection, and the end users, the companies like Trex, and we need to be thinking about we need to be thinking about code changes for building code. Like, well, where can we use downcycled lumber? How can it be used safely? Can we expand its use so we can get more of it into buildings, more of it out there into the wild, drive the cost down, but we need more of it collected. And then also at the top end, we need to be funding the R&D of replacements. But that is going to be a whole different price structure. So for every penny you spend on the collection, you're going to get way much more collected. But every penny you spend on R&D, you're going to be spending millions of dollars of R&D and not really getting much in the short term. Whereas those millions of dollars for collection, you're going to get a lot. But again, both need to happen at the same time. So the way I look at it is that, the state needs to be supporting those huge R&D budgets of like maybe the equivalent of like an X Prize, where the state of California says we're going to give like, I don't know, 500 million, $1 billion to the first company that comes up with true biodegradable, true compostable plastic that has the same utility as a plastic bag today, and we can sell it at the same price. Because we have to hit those three factors at the same time, because even if it's 1 cent more, you'll knock out like 50% of the people won't buy it because it's 1 cent more. And we're all guilty of that as well, because we all shop around on Amazon and choose something that's like 1 cent less. I mean, I hate to say it, but we all do it, So that's what, again, I'm a pragmatist, so I fully admit to that. So that's what we need to do, yeah. And then Mark's holding up some plastic bags over there.
Yeah.
We can definitely, and on that note for the plastic, if we have a stronger understanding of our footprint, I think that gives us a way better ability to tackle this. At the moment, I think there's a lot of sort of misunderstanding and in some cases denial about how much plastic each of us actually has. And it's made more difficult by the fact that if we go into a clothing store, the vast majority of us don't realize that the clothing is unbagged before we see it. Right. So if you imagine walking into Kohl's and you see those racks and racks and racks, that all represents plastic. Yeah. And that has to go somewhere. And unfortunately, the mechanism we have at the moment is it goes to landfill. So what I'm trying to explain to people is, even people who are really sort of environmental and say, no, I have my own reusable tote bag, I say, well, I want you to understand that, yes, you do, but when you buy a window for your house, when you buy a new couch, or when you buy clothing, there's plastic associated with that in the back room that you don't see. And if you want to get more involved, you can have that conversation with the store that you're buying from and just say, hey, what happens with that plastic? And just get that conversation started, with our family and friends, but also with our city, and saying we need to be having this conversation, because if we don't see it, we won't engage in it.
Good point. Thank you.
I was wondering if we had a shredding event just a couple of weeks ago with an electronics drop-off. Would that be a reasonable thing to do for a business like yours, is to have a plastic bag or plastic wrap drop-off day?
So I'm going to be brutally honest. The funding issue is always going to be the major issue. So yes.
Have you seen this any place where they've done this?
Well, yeah, grocery stores. If you think about it,
yeah.
that is the model for a grocery store. And one of the issues we have, and I'll be very frank, is we as humans, if we do something that is objectively good, we feel we've done our part. We're not very good at thinking about how that good continues to be done after we've dropped it off. And the analogy I would use would be, if we see an injured bird on the side of the street and we take it to ASPCA, we quite rightly feel that we've done a great thing, but a lot of us won't think, well, how does this bird get treated? Who's paying for the vet? Who's paying for the fees? All the care that's going to be required later on. And that's the same for recycling at any level.
Sure.
There's a lot of infrastructure. In our case, the way that recycling is packaged, which again, I didn't know until I started this, is, well, you can't give Trex a plastic bag. They want it to be in a bale, and a bale is an 800-pound block of plastic, and in order to make that, you have to have a $20,000 machine to make it. And then they won't just take one of those bales. They want a minimum of 15.
Yeah.
So now you have to have a warehouse that can store 15 of those bales, and that has the electricity supply that you can plug in that 12-foot tall, 5,000 pound, 20,000 pound machine. So there's a lot of financial burden to any company that's be taking on, which is what I was saying about the city needs to understand that in order for recycling to get done, any business, whether they want to be part of this, actually be recycling their stuff that they're getting rid of, so their own plastic, they need to be educated about it, but also they should be given some sort of incentive, I believe, certainly until the point where the price can be driven down to parity with trash, which is our goal of giving it to EDCO in 5 years. Our hope is that once it gets to scale, and EDCO gets given a whole city, so they're going to be in a way better position to run it at scale and drive that cost down. Certainly I don't know how they do it. I don't think they could do it for residential. I don't think that would be practical. But for businesses, I think absolutely they could do that. But we need to pay attention to that, and we need to be realistic. And I'll go back to the wastewater. I think you all have a very good understanding of wastewater. The difficulties of the systems, and it's not cheap. It doesn't pay for itself. We learnt as a civilization that you ignore it at your peril. If you decide, well, I don't want to pay for a toilet because I'd make no money from it. Typhoid doesn't care, malaria doesn't care. You will pay for it as a society, and we learned that hundreds of years ago. And what we're trying to do through the very boring action of just collecting and showing our community how much material is out there ready to be collected, that we can remove this material from our ecosystem, because we're all reading the same articles. An article came out saying that it's basically this plastic particulate that's been found in the testes of every male that was tested in a certain thing, and it's been in mother's milk, it's in snow, they're having to cover archaeological digs within hours of opening them up now, because it's so pervasive that it's in the air. It just gets into the soil as soon as soil is unearthed. So in my view, we're in the same sort of time frame and situation as like medieval times, when we realized wastewater was doing a lot worse to us than we realized was going on. I think we're there with plastic, and this is a really easy way to pivot and to deal with it, and a very cost-effective way too.
Very compelling arguments. Yeah, I think you have a lot of support here. So
One last quick comment is this commission, in its work plan, did put in looking at the city's procedures on procuring paper, cleaning supplies, things that might be wrapped in plastic. There's a subcommittee of 3 that'll be looking into that along with our sustainability manager. So I don't know if any of the 3 are here with us now, but that would be great to have you on call when they get into that, what we get that's wrapped in film and different things as an outlet for the city to be able to get rid of it in
I'd
the
like to
future.
be part of that.
So,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
this opportunity.
Okay, and now we're moving on to the approval of minutes. I was not at last month's meeting, so I will let somebody else start a motion. Okay. Anyone would
Motion to approve the minutes from last month?
Okay, I guess I'll second that. We wait for Mark to come back. Okay, we're just voting to approve the minutes for last meeting. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, and moving on, do we have any informational items? No, okay. And then action items, let's get an update on the progress of the work plan and review of the commission calendar.
Yep. So this will be the update for June. My name's Todd Moran, I'm the coastal administrator. We've got Madeline Lamper, our sustainability analyst here as well. And so we'll go through that real quick. Let's see. So the work plan itself, the first item that you had was commission outreach and representation. And the status of that is provide environmental education at city-sponsored public events such as Cyclovia, EcoFest, Dog Days of Summer, Arbor Day. I believe Commissioner O'Connor attended the BCK programs event at the Farm Labs on May 7th. Cyclobia was held on May 19th with commissioners present. And then EcoFest is held on June 2nd, 2024 with commissioner participation. That's ongoing. Did we want to add any updates to that?
That was just held, and a wonderful event, about 45 exhibitors, and estimate about 1,200 people showed up to learn a little bit about recycling and worms and composting and all sorts of things. It was very well attended, very well put together.
Any other comments? No? So moving down, there's no changes to environmental awards program. Number 3, the native plant policy. So on May 15th, 2023, City Council voted to include a budget allocation of $150,000 for the development of a policy in fiscal year 24-25 budget. Any?
Yeah, can I add something?
Yeah.
So in the past, we'd been tracking, additionally sort of overall vegetation management in this. I think there was an initial desire for all that to be included in the native plant policy, but it does appear things have started to go in different directions for a variety of reasons that the council seems to have. Yes, at yesterday's council meeting, I believe there was a vote as a consent item to fund $50,000 of the Habitat Stewardship Plan in Oak Crest Park. And I wasn't there, but I believe it passed.
Yeah.
And so I think that should be captured here as well, because it is, I think, within the intent of what we wanted to track as a part of this original
Yep.
work plan.
Yeah, that was part of the native plant policy, that demonstration garden.
It's
Yeah,
just getting
perfect.
separated out now.
Got it.
So is it okay to make a note of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Another note is,
Sorry.
at that meeting last night, it was brought up, the Cottonwood Creek corridor, they're considering moving the tennis court that's on the west side over to the east side where there's already courts and basketball things, to reestablish that in its more natural, native,
The Moonlight one.
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So
Yeah.
it's pending, of course, funding and things, but it was on the agenda and discussed and I believe approved.
Thank you.
Move along. So, no smoking ordinance, no update. Safety element, no update. Mobility element, looks like that's still update under development. So the 5-year climate action plan update. The next public workshop is scheduled to be on July 16th. I believe that's a Tuesday. It's at 5:30, I believe, at the community center.
Is it appropriate, so we received sort of the report card on some of our climate action stuff? I thought that was really helpful and useful, so if possible, to also mention that we received the report card?
Yeah, I can provide that link if anyone's interested. Maria sent that out to the full
Yeah.
commission, but yeah, it was a nonprofit, rated all of the cities in San Diego County, and Encinitas came in second place. And the overall consensus was every city could do more, but Encinitas was in pretty good standing at second place, behind La Mesa. So we got to beat La Mesa.
Maybe we can add the link in there, Maria? Okay.
I have a question. Crystal was looking at our July meeting. We added the July meeting to talk more about the CAP update. But then after that, she moved the CAP public workshop to July after the meeting. So do you know if she's going to be having any CAP update for next month?
The next meeting, I think, is scheduled for July 11th for the Environmental Commission, but the CAP update, the actual workshop's on the 16th. So you mean a separate meeting or additional meeting? That would probably be in August, I would assume. Yeah, I don't know that there'd be an additional meeting in July. There was just the one, at least at this point.
Yeah, usually we took off July. And so she suggested we have the meeting in July because she was going to have information on the cap.
I've got some insight on that. The original workshop was scheduled to be the same day as, I believe, the El Camino workshop. So it was moved. So I think that was her original intent, to have the workshop in June and then update you guys in July, but I don't know what's going on now.
Let's check with Crystal.
Yeah, I think it would
Really, as a
be
subcommittee.
a month later.
That'd be good.
Yeah, because it got moved. All right, moving on to 8, tree canopy, just gathering research, green building incentive programs and process, fleet idling policy, still gathering
I
research.
thought we were removing the tree canopy from the work plan because it's going to be,
It was completed, so
I'm sorry?
it was completed. Maybe she just hadn't had time to update that. It should fall off this document.
I think Crystal is waiting for the council to approve the new work plan, and then it'll be updated with those projects dropped off.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, let's see. Sand compatibility and opportunistic use program, that's kind of continually in process.
There was a guy that gave us a great presentation on that a while back, by the way.
Thank you. Zero waste. Looks like we don't have anything listed on that. Got any comments on that one?
Well, can I go back to number 11 since we have the person here? First off, it's
Sure.
been really nice to have the sand back. But then second off, did you notice that the sand is gone again between, like by pipes, kind of, not pipes, just north of Swami's?
So it's starting to
I'm sure
move.
it could come back, I guess. Not Boneyard, oh, sorry, south of Swami's. Yeah, it's
So
it's turned to
south of
cobble
Swami's
again.
wasn't part of the berm, right?
It wasn't, but it did
Yeah.
kind of move south, and it was there for a while, and now it's gone again. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but it was just an
Yeah.
interesting observation.
Yeah. So we're obviously monitoring it, but
Yeah.
the berm itself, I actually walked it this week too.
Cool.
And was taking photographs of kind of the changes. But yeah, where it's actually stopped was more about like I Street, essentially downtown.
Okay,
And so now it is migrating around that point.
interesting.
So it's pretty filled in, around the point and then heading into kind of the crescent portion of Swami's. So there's now a beach there. It's basically covered all the cobble in the back.
Yep.
And then it's starting to move towards pipes.
Yeah.
But, it'll start changing direction again once we start getting the south swells.
That's
So-
what's happened,
Yeah.
actually. The southernmost part, it was sand, and then
Yeah.
now that's moved again with the south swells this past week, I think. But I know
Yeah,
it's dynamic.
we're starting to see the sand fill in beacons now, right?
Right.
So it's
Oh, okay.
moving north, or at least the
Got
berm itself moving north. It's starting to fill in that direction. So it'll be interesting to see, will beacons get completely filled in, over the summer with that southerly direction of swell?
Cool, thank you.
Yep, sure. All right, so we are on, did we want to add anything to 12, zero waste?
Those three commissioners are planning a meeting.
Okay, so planning a meeting? Did we want to state that?
We've
or
been
just
planning one for
meeting-
2 months, but
Meeting in process?
sure. that would be fine. Just to fill that blank spot.
There you go.
Yeah, it's looking sad.
All right, so 13, integrated pest management policy. Nothing new on that.
Nope.
San Onofre nuclear generating station songs.
No.
Nothing new on that. Food service, plastic ordinance in process. And then B City USA in process. I think that's it, right? Yeah. Unless there are any other updates.
No, I think that's it for now.
Do we approve those?
Yeah, so do we need to approve this, even though this is not our updated work plan, so that's a little bit confusing.
But you would make a motion to approve
This.
this work plan
Okay.
with the updates that we just noted. So then you would see the updated version in July, on July 11th.
We do have an even kind of bigger update where some of these items have changed, but council hasn't approved it yet. So this is kind of still the old
Yeah.
operating system, but okay.
That's
So
what
I'll-
I did too.
Yeah, I'll have to wait.
This one is good through the end of this month.
Got it. Okay. All right. I will make a motion to approve this.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, thanks. Okay, and we'll review the commission calendar.
Todd, there's the calendar. I think there's just one change on it.
Do you actually have that?
It should be the second attachment.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Okay.
Does this mean we should cancel the July meeting?
I think we decided to meet in July, but not August. Last month, that decision was made.
But it sounds like that was based on the idea that Crystal was going to have an update on CAP in July that she won't have now.
I'm not sure.
It wasn't
I think we have
the
other things
switch,
to
it wasn't the
discuss.
switch. We're now going straight through. We just decided to fill July partly for what we're working on.
Oh,
and
no, will
other
we
things.
also meet in August? Or will we-
Yes, there was
Oh,
no
Okay,
information on canceling any meetings.
okay, good to know. Okay, so I think usually Crystal kind of walks us through this, but I think we could just read it too, and,
It's just the one thing, right?
As far as the calendar?
yeah.
Um,
I mean, or I can read it, I'm happy to do that too. Just let me
Okay.
know it's,
I mean, is it just
It's just,
the year of what you guys have gone through?
yeah, and I guess just the one thing to discuss, the change is, we had originally discussed skipping July, that's what we do traditionally, but then we have some agenda items to address in July, so we decided to meet in July. And then it looks like we don't really have anything August, September, October, November, although we will meet those months.
I think this is just a general calendar to show you like what's coming up.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if you have something that comes up for any of those months, we can update it.
Okay, great. Anyone have any updates? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve this then. Do we need to approve this?
You don't
No.
need to.
Okay, all right, moving right along. Okay, any commissioner-initiated action agenda items? None, okay. Updates on items of interest to commission or any announcements?
Yeah, I have a couple. One, I had a group that went on a tour of EDCO facility, of the recycling and the organic waste, and Madeline and Todd went with us, and Crystal and the other people in her group. I thought, and it was really great. I suggest everybody take a tour of the EDCO recycling organic waste facility. It's really amazing. Several things that I thought were really interesting, because I had taken a tour a couple of years ago, and at that time, they said that no, like Starbucks or other commercial paper coffee cup could go in the organic waste. And they said that manufacturers have changed the process of which they, make shiny surfaces on these, cardboard plates, and that now Starbucks coffee cups can all go in the organic waste. And there's a lot of other, like shiny-looking cardboard, like the bowls from Cava. They look a little different. I don't know if you noticed. They look, and so those are now able to go in the green bin. And he said that the Dixie plates from Costco can go in the green bin. And so it's really interesting that these manufacturers are changing the process. And he was saying that all plastic stays within the United States now, that they ship all the paperboard, cardboard to Asian countries, not China, but smaller countries. But all the plastic is recycled within the United States, which is kind of interesting. But and the other thing that he talked about was that we really need to get more organic waste. You know, they are taking the methane generated by the anaerobic digester to run their trucks, but they can't. It's not enough for all their trucks. So I thought that was interesting. So
That's neat to know.
I thought that was great.
Yeah.
So anyways, I think EDCO is a great partner. I'm really glad we have them as a waste hauler, and I think they did a good job. The second thing I wanted to bring up was I attended a school-city liaison meeting. They meet every other month, and a lot of the work they do is trying to get more bikes, a safer transportation to schools. And, you know, using bikes, using buses, and I was really impressed. And Joy Lindis was the was running the meeting, and I thought that it was a very worthwhile meeting. So it's the second Wednesday every other month at 8:10 in the morning.
Are those meetings on the city website anywhere? How'd you find out about those?
I found out through Judy Burlfine.
Oh, that's,
like everything
that sounds
else.
right, yeah. Okay.
So, but anyways.
I had one.
Thanks, Carol.
A couple weeks ago, there's some coalitions that work in the tobacco waste and smoking arena. And SDSU has the Center for Tobacco and the Environment, and they recognized the city of Encinitas, especially naming Mayor Krantz as their tobacco prevention hero of the year for the ordinance that was passed here in Encinitas. And he was busy, but Deputy Mayor Blackwell attended and accepted the award on his behalf. So it was attended by a lot of people that are into that, and very well deserved.
Great, thank you.
I wanted to, James McDonald passed away, I believe, after slightly after the last Environmental Commission meeting. And I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but he passed away May 13th, and, you know, he was a real fixture in these meetings and educated our commission very, very well and wisely, I think, on a variety of issues related to pollinator health and the environment. He was really instrumental and supportive and very, very much guiding the last major update to the IPM policy. And so, you know, it was, at least for me, quite a shock that he passed away. He seemed otherwise healthy. But I just wanted to just take a moment and acknowledge all the guidance he brought into this group. And he pushed the Bee City. He really pushed Bee City USA as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. I have been thinking about him, and it's such a loss for the city, for our community, and he was just such a cool guy. I'm gonna miss seeing him at the meetings.
His celebration of life is Saturday, June 22nd. I believe I have the wrong time on my phone, but it's at Calvary Chapel Church on South Melrose. I believe it's 11. And then a little bit of a wake in the parking lot, and then they're going to go out his favorite surf spot. I believe it's around Swami's later on in the afternoon.
Yeah, I had no idea he was like this big time surfer and like horse jumping trainer. Like, what a cool guy. Like, what a life. Yeah, he lived several lives. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. All right. Okay, do we have any future commissioner-initiated agenda items? Okay, with that, I think we can adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.